All right, well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon or morning, wherever you are. It's great to see everybody. Martha Ann and I wanted to talk a little bit about our journey here and how we got to where we are. I was a medical student at Duke, medical student at Rochester. I was a resident at Duke, but at Rochester, I actually took a year out. I was in a class of 72, but ended up finishing in 73 because I spent a year in Uganda. That experience was transformative for me, and is probably part of why I, ended up in global health and why I believe in what we're doing now. I'm a pediatrician by training, and presently the director of the Global Health Institute for another week at Duke, and very much looking forward to the new director coming. Martha Ann?
So hi, I'm Martha Ann Keels. I'm a pediatric dentist by training, and we met during our PhDs in epidemiology at UNC. And I have a private practice in Durham, North Carolina. We live in Chapel Hill, and then I teach at UNC and teach at Duke, pediatric dentistry related things. And then I'll let Dennis explain why we decided to help Rochester.
So like I mentioned, the experience I had I was halfway through my fourth year, and I applied for a fellowship that they were offering. It was called an honors fellowship, although I would never say I was an honor student. But I applied to spend a year out in Uganda. And there I spent it in a little concrete bunker behind the Uganda Cancer Institute at Malago Hospital. And to be quite honest, while I'd gone to high school for a few years in Switzerland because my family lived in Germany, this was a very transformative experience for me to be living in a different country, in a different place, and being totally accepted by everyone and just part of the community. It was a great experience for me. It was, my mother thought I was crazy to have done it when I did. And Idi Amin, it was the second year. And probably in retrospect, I would have thought the same. But at that time, it seemed like a good idea. And I certainly learned a lot from it. As Martha Ann and I talked about, what we should do for retirement and, funds to help other people do things. I'm 75 now, and when I turned 70 and a half, I had to start drawing down funds from our retirement plans, and we didn't need them because we're both still working. So what we did is we took each year that the funds came in and we sent them to Rochester. We provided a gift to the dental school to help them refurbish the dental school. And that was the funds that came in first and went to pay for that. And that took about 5 years to do. And then the rest of the funds will be going towards the School of Medicine to help students in the future, have experiences perhaps like mine, or at least support students, medical students, in exploring the world and helping them to understand the diversity that's out there so that they'll be better physicians. I just gave a lecture yesterday to the nursing school on decolonizing global health and how we come to look at everyone as equals, how they're equal partners in what we do, and how we go about doing that. It's a very complex situation, but it's the roadmap for that has started, and I'm very excited about that. And I think the students that are coming along are going to take it where it needs to go. And so we're delighted to be able to support the School of Medicine and the dental school and both their facilities and helping students and for the future to learn more about how they can, help the world to be a better place. Not everybody has the same way they might want to give a gift, but ours, until we stop working, we will continue to use the funds because they go the full amount. If I have to take out 150,000, Rochester gets 150,000. If I take it, I only end up with about 85 or 90 because of the taxes that are removed. So it's a great way to maximize the benefit retirement funds we have. Anything you'd like to add?
I think it was a perfect fit for combining medicine and dentistry, because the Eastman Oral Health Center has been famous for so long, and it kind of like the stars lined up in that the head of the program, Sean McLaurin, was saying, God, we really need to renovate this clinic. And so it's like perfect that they needed funds. And we were like, okay, and so it was like a great combination of what we both do.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, this is Peter Van Brown. I somehow kicked myself off. I wonder if somebody can let me back in. I'm at the launch meeting level.
Peter, I will send you a new link.
Okay.
And I can't say enough about how Rochester made it easy. I mean, we've explored, you can hear we've trained in many different places and worked, so, and so they were just the whole process of, what do you want to do with your money? And they just made it so easy.
Very much better than every other institution, to be quite honest.
I was so close to wanting to do something different, and there were just so many roadblocks, and they weren't letting us have input into where it might go. It's like, we want your money, but then that's the end of the discussion, and we couldn't influence how it would be used. And that was really, really frustrating when you've worked so hard. It's not like we're millionaires giving away, we have we're hardworking doctors. So it was nice that they respected that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll now let me turn it over to the Director of Gift Planning and the Office of Trust and Estates, Kathy Taylor, Senior Director of Development for University of Rochester Medical Center Academic Programs, Carrie Mertz, Senior Director of Gift Planning at the Office of Trust and Estates, which is Carmen Aiezza. And I think he's going to be providing a little idea of how you can help Rochester.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dennis and Martha Ann. I really do appreciate you sharing your story. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to share a screen and start a presentation. Can everybody see that? Okay, good. So today's presentation is an informational session to introduce gift planning strategies, a combination of which you've heard from Dennis and Martha Ann, that will blend or combine your charitable objectives in support of the university's mission, and at the same time do it within the context of your wealth management and financial planning. So our agenda today, first we'll talk about a brief discussion about what is gift planning. And then we'll jump into strategies, tools, and techniques that donors use every day to fulfill their philanthropic goals. For today, that might mean a path forward to find a way to perhaps celebrate your reunion with a gift that would support a purpose you're most passionate about while you're staying true within your financial and philanthropic goals. And then the third thing we'll talk about is next steps, which is really information about the Wilson Society, which is our university's recognition society for those that have used a gift planning strategy to make a gift. Okay, so let's start with what gift planning is. So when you hear terms like these acronyms and terms in relationship to making a gift, it's more than likely going to lead to some sort of gift plan. So these are things like bequests or CRUTs or CGAs or flexible deferred gift annuity. You'll hear annuitant, you'll hear beneficiary designation, you'll hear capital gain, RMD, IRA rollover, QCD. So, we throw a lot of these terms out, but I think we help navigate and help make it simple for our donors to use these different kinds of techniques. So gift planning it's a process, it's a methodology that helps the donor, and perhaps in consultation with their advisors and the charitable organization, which is the university, to determine which techniques will provide the greatest charitable potential for both the donor and the charitable organization. And sometimes I often hear back from the donor when we find a path forward for them, they say to us, well, geez, that was really like a win-win situation. You know, I really was able to accomplish what I wanted to do philanthropically. I feel really good about that. I feel like I did it within the context of my financial plan, and I work in with consultation with my advisors. So gift planning is really finding a path forward for the donor that has a philanthropic goal. And there's really three things that we talk about when that. We talk about timing. So that is during one's lifetime or part of an estate plan. We talk about, different methods, and we'll talk about some of those, what those methods are, and the different kinds of assets. So in the top right-hand corner, you'll see really the primary focus is on unlocking the charitable potential for the donors. And when you look at the assets in the top right-hand corner, we often think about cash and securities, that, for sure. But, there are other asset types like real estate and retirement assets like IRAs and life insurance and personal property. So cash and securities for sure, but these other asset types is where a substantial portion of each individual's net worth is. So the primary focus is trying to unlock the charitable potential for the donors using some of these different kinds of methods and using these different kinds of assets and the timing either during one's lifetime or as part of their estate. Testamentary type of gifts, we often call those. This is also something that it relates to gift planning. We think about the donors giving giving life plan over one's giving life, and we think about we often think about three-part giving as personal philanthropy, and it usually starts with an annual gift. And this is something that it's often called checkbook giving, or writing a check, using a gift, using securities, going online, making a gift on your credit card. So these are annual gifts that normally go for unrestricted support for things like the SMD annual fund. And then somewhere along the lifespan of a donor, there might be an opportunity to make a special gift, maybe to celebrate one's reunion. And those are gifts that are, happen now, and it's usually cash or securities, or it could also be used for a gift that was made by maybe an IRA distribution. So it would be for a special project or a campaign. It might be for to celebrate someone's reunion, or it might be part of a gift for a class project during a reunion. And then, following that, we think about plan giving during one's lifetime or from their estate. It could be immediate, it could be deferred, and it's assets by will or trust, or it could be beneficiary designation, or it might be from retirement funds, life insurance, charitable gift annuities, charitable trust. These are things that we'll talk about today. And sometimes this might result in the ultimate gift. So this might be their largest gift. And the reason why it is because it's could happen at a point in time when they don't need the asset anymore. It could be part of their estate. So if you look on the right-hand side, you see this donut-shaped thing, and you see the different colors in there. You see this mustard color and a blue and a green. So the green is annual, the blue is special, and this mustard color is planned. So you see that planned gift is about 300% larger than the other two buckets as part of three-part giving. And this actually represents the the lifetime giving of donors that are also Wilson Society members. So these are donors that have made plan gifts. So you could tell that, this is very important to us to have that conversation about those assets that were in the right-hand corner of that previous slide that I showed you. Okay, so that kind of talks a little bit about what gift planning is. Now let's jump into some of the strategies. So we'll shift gears and we'll talk about some methods, tools, and techniques donors use to give different kinds of assets at certain times during their life, or they may be deceased or their estate. So in other words, these are strategies for meeting family, financial, and charitable objectives. So the first one we'll talk about is a bequest. So a bequest is simply receiving property through a will or a living trust. And it's a bequest is revocable. So the donor may at any time may change their mind about things like the amount, the asset that they're giving, or the purpose that they want us to use the gift for once it comes to us. So ownership of the asset does not transfer to the university until the donor is deceased. And it could be a specific amount, or it could be a specific asset, or it could be a percentage of the residual of the estate. So although is not very complicated to do this, it does need to, the will clearly needs to state what the donor's intended purpose is. And we often help with that. We often are introduced to our donors advisors to help with sample will language, and also help craft easy gift agreements for the donor so that they know that the purpose of their gift will be used as intended once it finally arrives at the university. So since the asset ownership passes when a donor is deceased, it's no longer needed, and it becomes an opportunity for the donor to make a significant and possibly a transformational gift that may not be possible during one's lifetime. And Doctors Clements and Keels talked about their gift, and their gift was a blended gift. It included a gift during their lifetime. It also included a bequest. And the gift in their lifetime helped refurbish the pediatric clinic at the Eastman Institute of Oral Health, which you see them pictured there on the right in front of the clinic. And then there's the other component is a bequest, I think part of which they probably want to try to accelerate during their lifetime, but it's a bequest, and it's there to support school of medicine and dentistries that are interested in global health initiatives. And that'll set up an endowed fund in the future. And this gift combination, this blended gift, really gives them the satisfaction of knowing that they're leaving a legacy that reflects their philanthropic goals, which you heard them talk about. So Dennis and Martha Ann, I hope I described that. and if there's anything you want to add to that, otherwise I'll move on. And we can never thank you enough for this gift. It's we can never thank any of our donors for the generosity, and we're fortunate to have such generous and loyal alumni. The second beneficiary designation, the second bequest, if you will, that I'll talk about, it's a beneficiary designation. So it's also simple, it's also revocable, and it's rather than citing the university with a bequest in a will or a trust, the donor uses a beneficiary designation form provided from their fund manager. And it's the manager that holds the account, holds the IRA, holds a brokerage account. And it could be a percentage, or it could be an amount. It could be a percentage, or it could be a specific dollar amount. It's very easy to do. I mean, some of you on the call right now could probably do it right on your cell phone. With a couple pieces of information that we would give you to help you complete that. So when naming the university as a beneficiary of an account such as a life insurance policy or retirement assets or brokerage accounts, the gift is 100% free of tax, and it preserves the asset for charitable purposes. So it's important to remember that unlike gifts that are governed by last will and testament, that directs the funds for a specific purpose, it's important to, if you're interested in designating your gift, it's important to know that commercial asset managers are not able to take responsibility that your future gift is designated for the purpose or the particular fund, school, or unit that you want your funds directed to. So, we recommend that you contact us for helpful instructions about how to make sure that we have the information we need to complete the gift when it finally comes to us. So on the right-hand side, you'll see a story. You see Norma Anzer picture here. And, when Norma and her late husband updated their estate plan, they made arrangements for a large estate commitment, and they used several kinds of gift planning methods. They had a revocable provision in their will. They also named the university as a beneficiary of retirement assets, both of those revocable. And they also used something that we'll talk about next, which is they funded a life income gift. They funded charitable gift annuities. So by combining these different planning methods, two of which were revocable and one of which was not a unrevocable or non-revocable commitment, they were sure to preserve the assets and the income in retirement while supporting, here pictured here is the Golisano Children's Hospital. And they really wanted to help the youngest and most vulnerable patients and their families in our community. And it was also important for the Anzers to give back, including the establishment of an endowed fellowship in pediatrics, but also they were also interested in supporting the Memorial Art Gallery and the Eastman School of Music. So those were their three primary areas of interest. And you can see Norma, she's pictured here in the atrium of the Golisano Children's Hospital. So this is the first of two methods that I'll talk about that provide income to a beneficiary. So the first is it's a charitable gift annuity. So the way it works is in exchange for irrevocable gift of cash or securities, the university agrees to pay one or two beneficiaries a fixed sum each year for life. And payments are made quarterly, and they could start immediately, or you can defer the start of payments to a future date. That date could be either a specific date in the future, or you could pick from a range of dates. And those are selected by the beneficiary. And this could be used for support for any area of the university. And I think it's important to note that the donor and the beneficiary need not be the same person. I worked with a donor once that wanted to help his sister-in-law. And in honor of his 50th reunion, he funded a gift annuity. He got the charitable deduction, and his sister-in-law was the beneficiary of the annuity payments. And there were some circumstances there that she was facing in life, and it was really helped her out. It could be funded with cash or securities, and the age that someone does this, they're typically 50 years or older. So I talked about deferring payments. So why would you defer payments? Well, so the older the beneficiary is at the time of the gift, and the longer the payments are deferred, the greater the fixed amount the university could pay. So regardless of when the payments start, the donor gets the immediate charitable income tax deduction when the gift is made. So, for example, you see some rates here for a 60-year-old for immediate payment. Their payout would be 4.5%. if the annuitant, say you were 60 years old and you wanted to fund an annuity for the benefit of a elderly parent, that elderly parent was 85, that elderly parent would get a 8.1% annuity rate. Or if you were 60 years old and you funded a charitable deferred annuity, and say you felt that you really didn't need the income until you were maybe 70, you would get an immediate income tax deduction, and then you would get a higher annuity payment later on. Okay, so this is a little picture of how it works, and we can easily generate these for any one of your particular situations. So in this case, the donor makes a gift of $100,000 in cash, and in return for that, they get for an immediate payment, they get a 5.3% charitable annuity. They would get be eligible for a $44,232 income tax deduction. And they would get annual payments of $5,300. Interesting enough, that $5,300 annually for someone age 70, $3,509 of that would be tax-free for 15.9 years. So multiply the 3,509 by 15.9, and you come up with $55,793 would be tax-free of those annuity payments. So again, remember that the annuitant doesn't necessarily have to be the donor. So when the annuity stops paying, i.e. when the annuitant passes, the remainder goes to the University of Rochester for whatever purpose you designate when you make the gift. So it could be for any school or unit, it could be for any purpose or any project. So that's the deferred gift annuity. So here's a deferred gift annuity. So the same person at age 70 that was getting a 5.3% annuity for an immediate payment, if they waited to age 72, it would be 5.7%. Right? Or if they weren't sure, but they knew they wanted to defer, they could pick one of these these dates in the future. So you see 70 at 72 would be 5.7%. Skipping down a few years, at 76 years old, it'll be 7.2%. And then you can see what the tax-free portion would be and the ordinary income would be. So let me just pick an example. So at age 70, if they decided to wait to 72, they made the gift. They got a charitable deduction of $50,716, and they said, well, we want to do it now because we're in a higher tax bracket. We want to get the charitable deduction, but we really don't need the income now because we're still working. But we want to make this part of our financial plan, and we want to use this as part of our income stream when we reach age 75. When you get close, when you 6 months out before you turn 75, you let us know. You get a 6.9% annuity rate. You get $6,900 a year, of which $3,974 would be tax-free for a number of years. Okay. So that's how the flexible deferred works. Okay. I said this a few times, but I kind of like folks to remember that the donor doesn't need to be the beneficiary. And up to this point, I talked about the benefits to the donor and the beneficiaries, but what about the benefit to the university? So the donor gets to designate the purpose, and the purpose is funded when the donor no longer receives the payments. And picture here is, in this story, is Dr. Gary Berger. He's from the School of Medicine and Dentistry, class of 1969. And he's a collector of Albert Einstein writings, some of which are very rare. You see in picture here looking at a photo of Albert Einstein. he sold some of the very valuable pieces and used the proceeds to fund a flexible deferred charitable annuity. And when Dr. Berger dies, the annuity residuum is designated for an endowed professorship in medical education at the School of Medicine or Dentistry. The second gift plan, which we'll discuss today, that pays income is the Charitable Remainder Unitrust. So Charitable Remainder Unitrust is a gift plan defined by the federal tax law and allows a donor and other beneficiaries to receive payments for life or a term of years. So the way it works is a donor transfers assets to the university. Assets can be cash, it could be securities, it could be real estate, it could be life insurance, it could be personal property. This is a little bit different than an annuity. The annuity is cash or securities. This allows you to use other highly appreciated assets that are maybe highly illiquid, for example. And the minimum is $50,000. Minimal is a minimum amount. So the income to the beneficiary varies from year to year, and is tied to the performance of the university's long-term investment pool. So the university invests the donor's gift alongside the funds managed by the same advisors that the university uses for its own investments in our long-term investment pool. The donor gets an immediate charitable income tax deduction at the time of the gift. The donor avoids 100% of capital gains if it's funded with appreciated assets, preserving the value of the whole asset for the donor. And each year, the trust pays 5% of the annual trust value to one or more beneficiaries that are named in the trust for the life or a term of years. The trust is revalued annually based upon the performance of the long-term investment pool, and then the trust pays out the beneficiaries. The trust then pays the beneficiaries at 5% of the newly revalued principal. So then when the Unitrust term ends, the principal passes to the university for the purpose designated by the donor. Now, in this donor testimonial, you'll see here on the right, we have 2 generations of the Gupta family. The parents are on the right. Virendra is on the right, is Uma. Uma is in the center, and Atul is on the left. So Atul is the son. He made the gift. He got the charitable income tax deduction. His parents receive a stream of income for life. And later, the Unitrust will provide the younger Gupta income for 20 years. And then when that term ends, the proceeds will support the Department of Radiology at the University of Rochester Medical Center. Let me just share this with you. This shows you a little bit about how it works. I'm not sure how it looks on your computer. If you're on a laptop, you might have a hard time seeing this. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Does that help? Okay. So the way this works is that you see here, we often find donors funding trusts using highly appreciated assets, because they escape 100% of the capital gain tax, and 100% of the value of the market value of the property goes to work for them, and has become part of the principle of the trust principle. So in this case, it's a 70-year-old. They made a gift of say stock with a cost of $100,000 with a cost basis of $40,000. They would get an income tax deduction of $52,496. Depending on their income tax bracket, they would save taxes on that, and they would pay no capital gains tax on the transfer. They would get the income tax deduction of $52,496. They would $60,000 of the gains would not be taxed. The first year payments, they would receive $5,000. And then the remainder would go to the university. And what I showed over here, so this is a simple cash flow analysis. So if the gift, if they made a gift of $100,000 this year and you ran it out for 20 years with a appreciation of 8% of the long-term investment pool, year in principal at age 90, starting at 100 would end up being $180,611. Payments to the beneficiary would start out as $5,000. And as the growth of the trust continues to be reinvested in our endowment over that same period of time, after 20 years, payments to the beneficiary would be $134,352. So that goes to, that kind of shows you the power of investing alongside, investing alongside the university in our endowment. You're sort of going along for the ride with the performance of the university's endowment. So how is the university endowment invested? Well, in the cash flow analysis I just showed you, I used an 8% return on investment instead of what the actual return over the 10 years is 10.7. So I used 8 because that was more conservative. So when I showed you that cash flow, I wanted to be more conservative. I didn't want to show you the 10.7 because it would, it would be higher and maybe you wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But the university's long-term investment pool asset allocation you see here on the left, and it's a balance. It's a balance of domestic and foreign equities, also fixed income, as well as private equity, hedge funds, real estate, other assets. So it's a highly diversified asset allocation, and it's built in a way that this approach has really ensures growth with below public market volatility. So when the market is growing, we can participate in that without also sharing in the volatility, which often happens in equity markets. And during economic expansion, we can participate in that. And then it's also built for capital preservation in economic downturns. So on the right-hand side, you can see the growth of our endowment over time. And at the end of last fiscal year, it sits at $3.7 billion. Okay. So those are a few gift plans that are deferred. But going back to earlier in the presentation, I talked about 3-part giving. So for annual and those special major type of gifts, which are the smaller component of the donut, there are also some tax-wise ways to give. So I'm going to cover just a couple of those. Okay. So these are gifts using cash. So the first one is the IRA charitable rollover. And I kind of remember that slide I put in the front where all those acronyms. This is also known as a QCD. So when you hear QCD, that's an IRA rollover. So at age 70 and a half, a donor can make a direct transfer of cash from an IRA to the university. Dennis talked about that in the beginning of the presentation. But since the distribution was made directly to the university, it is not included in the donor's taxable income. And it also counts towards the required minimum distribution that you're required to take starting at age 72. The maximum is $100,000 per person per year, or $200,000 for married couples with separate IRAs. And this strategy is really useful for annual gifts or for making pledge payments for larger commitments, like, for example, endowing a scholarship, or, for example, doing what Martha Ann and Dennis did to support the renovation of the pediatric clinic. And so it's important to note that gifts need to be made directly to the university. If you withdraw and it goes, if you withdraw and it comes to you, and then you made a gift to the university, then it'll be counted in your adjustable gross income. So you don't want to do that. And we have simple instructions for you to share with your broker to make you do that. So again, it's going to lower your adjusted gross income. And if you could see on the left-hand side, this is a donor, Don and Dorothy Chan, that's in the center. And this quote kind of summarizes why this strategy worked well for them. And quote, it says, quote, "We use the IRA charitable rollover. Our gift fulfills our required minimum distribution, RMD, and we were able to keep the funds out of our adjusted gross income. It's an easy and tax savvy way to support what is important to us. And what's important to us is funding fellowships. These are 2 fellows that are in the Department of Orthopedics. And then this is this right before before talking about the Wilson Society. This is something that donors often don't think about. And you know, if you're going to make a gift, an annual gift, and you have a choice between using cash or stock, you might want to consider using stock. And this little simple illustration kind of gives you an example of why you might want to do that. So a gift of cash of $100,000 versus a gift of appreciated stock, you would have the same charitable income tax deduction, but you would avoid any sort of capital gains tax. And this happened to be this illustration happened to illustrate a gift of stock that was purchased years ago for $20,000. So there would have been if you were to sell it and then make the gift, you would have had a taxable capital gain of $80,000, and at that taxable gain rate, it would have cost you over $15,000 in taxes. So if you include the tax savings on the charitable deduction that you would get for making the charitable for a charitable deduction and a capital gain, you can see the difference. The net cost of the gift for using cash would be $68,000 for a $100,000 gift of cash versus $52,960 for a gift of appreciated stock. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is the Wilson Society. And so what is the Wilson Society? So the Wilson Society is honors those who have made a deferred gift. And so who are in the Wilson Society? We have 2,644 members, and they include alumni, friends, faculty, and staff. And you can see in the top right-hand corner, Janice Willett is an alumna, and Simon Parent, she's the U of R trustee. U of R trustee and is the chair of the chair of our Wilson Society. The bottom left-hand corner of this, you'll see the Wilsons, and this couple being Peggy and Joe Wilson. Joe is from the class of 1931 in the college, and he turned a small company called Halide Corporation into the Xerox Corporation. And then, and also he was a trustee and eventually became the chairman of the board of Rochester. And he really helped transform the university from what I would call a regional liberal arts college to a world leading research university. So the Wilson Society recognizes, like I said, all deferred gifts across the university, and its members have made an impact with their generosity across the university, all schools, all units. And every day we're fortunate and grateful to experience the university's progress made possible in part by those who came before us and thoughtfully invested in our future. And our Wilson Society members really are exemplary and really express their personal stories and their shared values of community by leaving a legacy through their personal philanthropy. And these are some of their faces. So the members they have utilized one or more of the gift planning strategies that I've discussed today. And we're grateful for their vision and investing in the future of Rochester. This is just a sample of the faces and the members you can find on our website. We'll get you some more information about that later. And it's important to share these stories because it helps us connect with donors, realizing that people like them make gifts like this, and it's not out of the ordinary. And success attracts success, and people become inspired and attracted to causes that are supported by others and by people they know. So we have the Wilson Society website. We have the gift planning website. It's full of resources. We have a small team that's dedicated to help people and their advisors navigate the different options, and the Wilson Society to bring them together to celebrate their collective vision for the future of the School of Medicine and Dentistry and the rest of the university. And we would be delighted to answer your questions and provide additional information at any time. And we have the expertise, we have programs, we have the resources to help you find your path forward. And we welcome you, and we would welcome you in open arms to join others in the Wilson Society who make plan gifts. So with that, I think we might have some questions. I'll turn it back to Carrie. So hopefully, I kind of ran through that quickly. I think we have about 10 minutes left. If you have any questions that you didn't already submit and you want to put them in the chat, Carrie's going to be monitoring the chat and we can hopefully address those. Any questions that are in the chat that we can't get to today in the next 10 minutes, then we'll respond back to you via email.
Great, Carmen, we do have a couple questions already. So if you don't mind, I'll just read.
Okay, that sounds good.
So question about a scholarship. When naming the School of Medicine and Dentistry as a beneficiary of my retirement assets, what is the best way to designate my gift for a specific purpose, such as endowing a scholarship?
So this is someone that has an IRA. And I talked about how easy it is to name the university as a beneficiary of the IRA. But I'm glad that this question was given to us ahead of time because it made me think about something that happened recently and how important it is for the donor to help to tell us about it, because we need to really help them make sure it happens when it gets to us. So what I thought I would do is I'm just going to read this. This is an actual statement that came back from a donor's asset manager. That this donor had made a beneficiary designation and tried to use special language to direct to the specific purpose for this beneficiary designation. So I'm not going to name I'm not going to name the donor. I'm not going to name the financial institution. I'll call it institution number one. So in quote, institution number one cannot accept such special use language as part of a beneficiary designation, since there is no way for this firm as an IRA custodian to enforce it or guarantee that such information will be provided to the beneficiary. All this firm will agree to is to pay the allocated share to the named beneficiary. For the purposes of the beneficiary designation, we simply need to know who or what are the beneficiary entities. So the client should only name the entity that has an entity information number as a respected beneficiary. If the client has not done so already, he or she should contact the institution, make arrangements for the eventual use of of his or her bequest by such beneficiary. It should be best practice for the client to have a written agreement with the institution, but that is not something that this firm needs or wants to see. End quote. So in other words, the custodian of the IRA is not going to be responsible for directing whatever purpose. All they care about is getting the beneficiary designation to the university. When it gets to us, we want to be sure that it's used for the intended purpose that the donor had always thought about. So we have a simple way to do that, and we have a simple bequest intention gift agreement that basically states, I intend to name the university as a beneficiary of my IRA. I think it's going to be an approximate value, but it may vary. But when it comes to the university, I want it to be used for XYZ. So this question said endowing a scholarship. So in that case, it would say, I want it to be used to endow a scholarship. I want the scholarship to be named the Mr. and Mrs. Endowed Scholarship, and I want that scholarship to be used for financial support for a student that's first generation. So that would be an example of what we would do. Your account custodian would never do that. It's not possible for them to come up with all the different kind of iterations that they would be asked to do for a
Great. So in other words, take the step of the beneficiary, but then work with someone here to make sure that document is filed with the intent.
Right.
Couple more questions we've gotten in. This is a little longer. I support the school using my IRA and the QCD. It's been a great way to reduce my tax situation and get the money to the school instead of paying taxes. In my will, I leave my kids my home, my stocks, cash, and family items. My children are currently named as 90% beneficiaries of my retirement account, and the school is 10%. My IRA has done very well and grown to be pretty significant. I understand that after I'm gone, my estate may have to pay income tax on that account, and my children will pay income tax on that money. You said that life income gifts can benefit others. Is there a way to avoid some of these taxes and still benefit my children and the school?
Okay, so that is a long question. I think the underlying theme there is that there's different kinds of assets that the donor is using to pass on to an heir. And it's important to use the right kinds of assets to avoid being taxed, to avoid some maybe unexpected taxes. And I think the one thing out of that one asset out of the whole thing is the IRA. And in December 2019, Congress passed the Secure Act, which changes the rules for inherited IRAs. So prior to that, so effective January 1st, 2020, most beneficiaries of a deferred retirement account like an IRA will no longer be able to withdraw such inherited accounts over their life expectancy. So prior to this law, if you had an IRA that had a substantial amount and you made your child a beneficiary of that, then that child will be able to withdraw that from that IRA over their lifetime. Well, this law changes that. Now they have to withdraw within 10 years. Number one, in most cases. Number two, that's a qualified deferred account. So what that means, the money went in, it hasn't been taxed yet. So when the money comes out, it's going to be taxed as income. Okay. So if the donor has a choice of using an IRA or another asset to get to the university, it's better to name the beneficiary as a beneficiary of the IRA, because it comes to the university tax-free. So I think we have somebody on this call that may have used this strategy.
Yeah, that would be us, I think. Hi, Judy and Ray Ricker.
Yep.
Yep, hi, yes, hi. So what we have done, I won't give you our whole story. It's too late and too long. But we've been associated with the university, both as students and faculty, for over 45 years now. And what we decided to do was, we have one daughter and no grandchildren. What we decided to do was to establish a CRUT. And we are the current beneficiaries of that CRUT as we continue to fund it. And when we're gone, our daughter will be the beneficiary for her lifetime. After that point in time, the entire estate, the remainder of the estate, will fund 2 professorships and a scholarship at the Eastman School of Music. So that way she benefits, we benefit, the school really benefits. Christopher, did I get that right? Okay. And without the tax implications that this donor is concerned about.
Yep. So now, since you have a child remainder unit trust established, that's an entity, and you can name that trust as a beneficiary of any asset you have. So if you name the trust as a beneficiary of your IRA, that money flows from your IRA to the trust tax-free. So
Yeah, well, we're funding it with appreciated assets, on an ongoing basis.
the same thing. So
Yeah.
appreciated assets that comes to the university tax-free. So it's a really good use of a child remainder unit trust. So
You want to add to that?
No.
thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your generosity.
Yep. Thanks. Well, it's a passion that we have, and believe in the school, and believe in particularly the Eastman School of Music and what they're doing.
Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Carmen, we do have more questions, but unfortunately, we're out of time. So I just wanted to say, keep the questions coming, and we'll follow up via email or phone or whatever works. And please, I just want to thank Dr. Clements and Dr. Keels. Your story was so heartfelt and had an impact on me personally. So thanks for your philanthropy and for sharing your story today. Thanks to Carmen for taking the time to outline all of that for us. And there's a lot to think about. So I'm putting up a slide here of contact information for Carmen and his team in our Office of Trust and Estates. And then my team, which travel around the country meeting with all of our fabulous School of Medicine and Dentistry alumni. So thanks to everybody for coming on to listen today, and our participants. And I hope everybody has a fabulous day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.